Hello, everybody. This is Scott Hutzbath with Agent Mastermind. Welcome to the call. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to join us today. And I have a dear friend with me and a guy that specializes in contract to close. And the cool part about what he does is he's mastered removing the small stuff so he can focus on what's truly helping agents make the money. Like what is really the 20% that makes you 80% of your money, and he's going to go through that today and how he's mastered that, and I'm really honored to have you here. Dustin, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent, man. I appreciate you joining us today, and I appreciate you sharing your expertise and kind of laying it all out there for us. Nothing held back, and I just appreciate that. So why don't we start with slide number one. I'm going to kind of set the mindset for what we're talking about today, and if you can just click the next slide. There we go. So I think I've shared this with you guys before, but one of my big things in life is these three circles. And, man, I live, eat, and breathe by these things. And the yellow is like what you love doing, what you're good at, and what pays well. And if you only have one of the two or two of the three, like if you have what you love and what you're good at, of course you're happy, but you're not making any money. If you have what you're good at and what pays well, then you're kind of bored because you really don't love doing it, and we call that burnout. So you only do it for so long, and then you're going to kind of look for something else to do, or even if it pays well, you're just going to kind of veer from it. And then if you're doing what you love, and it pays well, but you're not good at it, well, that's really not really a real thing. So it's probably not going to happen because you're not good at it. You may love. I mean, like for example, I love singing, but I'm not good at it. And I'm guaranteed not going to make any money at it. So unless my daughter's throwing pennies at me to shut up or something like that. But so go ahead and go to the next slide. So we're going to kind of focus on this middle circle here where it says win. We call it the triad of awesomeness, and that really truly is once you find out what you're good at, what you love doing, and what is making you money. It really truly is like waking up at Disney every day, working with like-minded people, and just having a good life. So one exercise that I did that I would recommend that you do. And this is just an example, so you got to fill in the numbers wherever you want to, like whatever they are. But look at your hourly wage. So say you work 40 hours a week, and I know some work more, some work less, but whatever the hourly wage is, so if you work 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, and whatever you made, so divide whatever you made by, I'm going to say 2,080 hours, which is 40 hours a week. That's $48 an hour. And the question is, would you pay someone $48 an hour to do everything you do during the transaction, okay? And every single time I would say, most people say no, absolutely not, and they usually use a couple swear words in there, like no. So go ahead and flip the next slide, and I'll let you take it from here. But so what I did, and this is just an example of what I would recommend you do, is write that number down, whatever that number is. It doesn't matter, and like put it up there and say, would I, and the number, whatever it is, whatever I'm doing during the day, would I pay someone $48 an hour to do that transaction? And that's something you have to answer yourself. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe you love doing it. If you love doing it, you're good at it, it makes you money, maybe that is what you should be doing. If it's not someone you'd pay $48 an hour, well, guess what? If you're doing it, you are, so you have to remove that from your plate. So, Dustin, without further ado, man, the master of contract to close, you've literally been doing this for a while. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'm going to give you the screen and go from there.
Well, I started in 2000 doing listing management for my grandmother, and she was a realtor for 36 years. I grew up with her in real estate, swore I would never get into it because I saw how crazy it was, and of course I ended up in it. So I was doing listing management for her. She had been a top producer literally her whole career, and I saw back in 2000. I saw how things were moving towards systems, automating things. I even saw the paperless trend at that point, although it was very much in its embryonic stage. And the way she worked, which is the way a lot of agents still work in 2014, is she had file folders for every single one of her listings and her transactions. It had flaps in it. She had sticky notes that were, within the folder. And I mean, it worked, but I saw a better way to go. I saw the direction that things were moving in, and so I started talking to her about automation and going paperless, and she was extremely set in her ways, and so she fired me. Yes, my own grandmother fired me. so I got hired on at that point at the largest group at a brokerage in Texas, and they were doing about 36 million. They had about 40 to 50 listings at all times. And so I was doing listing management at that point and then contract to close. For some reason, I had a knack for it. I had an understanding for the process. I was really good with the systems. I could understand what was necessary and what things were superfluous. And so I would whittle down and add some stuff, and that kind of began my trek in listing management and contract to close. I am licensed. I did buy and sell for a while, and I owned a group and had some buyer's agents underneath me, but I just kept being drawn back to the contract to close side of it.
What you
yeah,
love.
it's exactly. That's exactly right. And so I figured there had to be a way to get those three circles together to where I could be doing what I want, make the money, and be happy. I just knew there was a way to do it. So that's when I started my company doing contract to close, and the rest is kind of history. So I'm just going to share with you guys today a little bit about what I've learned and how I've done what I've done. So I'm sure all of you have heard of the 80-20 rule, you know, where you spend 80% of your time doing the 80% rather than spending 80% of your time doing the 20% that actually makes you most successful.
Right.
And that's called the grind. That's how you get burnt out. And, you know, as we all know, contract to close is an extremely tedious process. It's very date sensitive. There's a lot of legalities involved, and I mean, a contract can fall apart over any given thing that's missed. So as I started to do this, and you know, was at 40 to 50 contracts a month, and then it was at 60 to 70 contracts a month, I realized I'm going to kill myself doing this. There's no way, even as good as I was at systems, and we'll get into that in a minute, I could not do it all. You know, I knew that I had to leverage myself, which is the same thing that I would talk to the agents about. You know, you have to leverage yourself. And so I knew that I had to do that as well. And the only two ways to leverage yourself are through systems and people. So that's what I began to do, was leverage myself through systems and people on this journey to mastering contract to close, which it sounds funny to say that, mastering contract to close, because I'm always learning, but I have gotten pretty good at it. So mastering contract to close, you'll see on the slide, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. I mean, what Scott said about those hours during the week multiplied times, you know, the months in the year, it's absolutely accurate. I just spoke at a meeting this morning in San Antonio, and one of the questions I asked was, if you guys had to take a guess on how many hours you spend on one transaction in a 30-day period, because it typically takes, you know, 30 days to close a deal. Mm-hmm. How many hours would you guess? Nearly all of them are like 25, 30, 35 hours, and they're right.
Wow.
That's about how long it takes, is 25, 30, 35 hours, depending on the complexity of the transaction. And then it was funny because one of the agents said, I just spent 2.5 hours on the phone this morning with a lender and title company trying to save a deal. 2.5 hours.
What the heck did
That's
they talk
a lot
about?
of time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, so I think to myself, okay, so that agent spent 2.5 hours doing the 80%. That's what she did. She didn't spend 2.5 hours doing lead generation, lead cultivation, farming, calling her SOI. She spent 2.5 hours doing 80%. And so, again, the only effective way to leverage yourself is through systems and people. So the first thing I want to talk about are systems.
Hey,
I'm sure you guys
so let me ask you about real quick before you move on. So that 2.5 hours, could that have been done by someone else, or was the agent absolutely positively have to be on that call?
Oh no, absolutely, it could have been done by someone else. Absolutely.
Okay. So
and that's what I taught.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I talked to her about.
You could have taken that off their plate.
Exactly. And so here's the thing, and this is what I talked to her about, you know, in front of all of these agents, and it was an epiphany to her and kind of a reminder, but she was thankful. I said, what if you would have spent that 2.5 hours doing lead generation calls? And let's say that you converted one lead on a $100,000 house at 3%.
Right.
You've just made $3,000 when you could have been paying someone else that $48 an hour.
Right, 120 bucks you spent just trying
Yes, I mean that's just huge. So that you know, they would have multiplied their money 10 times over. So, you know, the first thing that I had to do when I was learning to master contract to close was I knew that I had to get a system. You know, at that point we were still using the folders, but I saw some of these programs coming out, and I'm sure some of y'all remember these. I'm going back all the way to like 2003, but there was Agent Office, there was Office Agent, there's Wise Agent, there's Top Producer, there's Sure Close, there's Transaction Point. Now there's a new one out there called SkySlope. Keller Williams has just come out with one called Dot Loop. So, I mean, there is no lack of systems out there available to an agent.
Does it matter which one? I mean, as long as you use it, it doesn't matter. I mean, like when we say, like a lot of people ask me, hey, what CRM should I use? Well, whatever ones you're going to use is really the one that, I mean, was there one easier than another, or are they all pretty much the same? Would you recommend one over another?
The way I always say it is any system is better than no system.
No question. Right. Yeah.
So I mean, even if you are working with a system that maybe it doesn't have a super easy interface, maybe it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that the one next to it does, but if you at least have a system in place, you're already ahead of the game, because I'm telling you, most agents don't have really good systems in place. Mm-hmm. You know, now built into these systems, there are checklists that are time sensitive based upon contingency periods and title commitments and surveys and all these other things. And so there is a time factor that has to be put in the front side of things in order to get these systems built. But once you have a system built, it's built, and then it works. And you can tweak it, you can add things, you can subtract things, but you've got to have a system in place. You know, the old school way of paper things and folders, and it works, but it doesn't work super well. And the thing is, there's always nuts and bolts to a transaction. Anyone can close a transaction. Anyone can.
Right.
But to close a transaction well, to where everyone involved in the transaction goes, wow, that was a really good transaction, and they can attribute that to you, that's a whole different level. And that's what I like to get to, and that's what I like to talk to agents about in terms of, you know, moving to that next level. So I always encourage you to get a system. Just find one. Are you going to say something?
No, go ahead. Nope.
Oh, okay. And I mean, the thing is, you can go on any of these websites for Wise Agent, Top Producer, or SureClose, and they'll allow you a demo to kind of walk through and see how things work. And you'll get a feel for it immediately whether you like it or don't. And the one that you like, just grab it and stick with it. So the first thing I would talk about is systems. Make sure you get some sort of a system in place. The second thing that I would talk about is people. So you leverage yourself through systems. You've got a system in place. Now you have to work on leveraging yourself through people if you're at that point. An agent doesn't have to have a person, but if you decide to go that route, there's a couple things that you can do. The first thing you can do is get someone in-house. You hire someone on staff. You know, the process that you have to go through to advertise for that person, to interview that person, hire that person, train that person, and manage that person can be a little arduous.
I think I just had a little anxiety set in right there, man. I mean, here's the thing. Is like, and I mean, I was at the War Room down in Florida a couple weeks ago, and I said, how many people in this room? There was 50 people in the room, and I said, how many people here are good at hiring and firing? And like, nobody raised their hand. I'm like, who hates it? Everybody raised their hand. It's like, it's just not.
Yeah, you know what's funny?
It's not a good thing, man. It's not fun.
Yeah, I mean, Scott, it's so funny because most of us do the breath on a mirror test. We hire out of necessity.
And you seem like a great
person. I mean, we hire out of necessity. I mean, there's a need, and so you just hire. And as my business grew, I did that. I was the idiot who was like, can you breathe on this mirror? Yes, and I'll put you in place. You know, and Gary Keller, in his MREA book, he has an interesting stat. He says a bad hire costs you 9 months of salary.
Oh, really?
that is a devastating number. That's devastating, right? You know, because you got to think of the time invested into someone. You know, plus you're paying them the whole time. You're managing them, which takes away from you building your business. You're paying employee taxes and so on and so forth. Now, there are good hires out there for sure. I mean, I know a lot of assistants in-house that are on staff, and they're just, I mean, I wouldn't trade them for the world. And the staff that I have, that's how I feel about my staff too. I mean, I treat them like gold because it is hard to find good help. So you've leveraged yourself through a system. You found the system. You got the checklist built in. Now you're starting to see kind of an ease of things. Reminders are coming in. You're not forgetting dates. That stuff's popping into your email, and you kind of go, and then you start to leverage yourself through people. You either have someone in-house, or you can hire a virtual assistant. Virtual assistant started coming out in about 2006. It has grown really big now, and in the time that I've been doing this, I've seen countless virtual assistants come and go because contract to close is so hard. And they you know, they'll get into it with one kind of mind frame, thinking it's going to be a certain way, and then they're going to make all this money. But then they start to realize, man, there is so much work that goes into this. But those are the two options that you have. So you've got your systems. Then you can leverage yourself through a person if you want. If you don't want to leverage yourself through someone, you don't want someone in-house, you know, you can go through virtual assistants, which at that point you alleviate yourself from hiring, managing, and employee taxes. But, I mean, some agents just, they don't leverage through people. They, you know, they've got that control thing going on, and I get it. I mean, I've got that too sometimes. But so those are the two ways that you're going to work, you know, through systems and through people. So the average transaction, you spend 8 to 10 hours a week on the phone. On an average, that's incredible. Going, you gotta, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you know, you have to stay in touch with the client because the client's your bread and butter. You've got to stay in touch with the title company because there's a whole slew of things that they've got to be doing. You've got to stay in touch with the lender because the lending is the critical part. You've got to stay in touch with the other agent to make sure that they're doing their job as well. And in the midst of that, as you're staying in touch with all those people, there are problems that come up. You may have a title commitment that comes back with an abstract or judgment. Then you've got to spend time on the phone dealing with that. An appraisal can come in low, a survey is not acceptable, whatever it is. Now there's more phone calls. So you see that, I mean, 30 to 40 hours a month, you're on the phone with one transaction. That's an incredible amount of time. You know what's funny about that, brother, is a lot of people, do you find it that, and this was my problem, is like a lot of people say, you know what, nobody can do it as good as me. I can't let that go. I have to be the one doing that. I have to be the one on the phone. I have to be the one communicating. On the other hand, if you think, and we always use this example, and maybe it's not the best, but a doctor's office. When you call a doctor to make an appointment, the doctor isn't the one that answers the phone. He's not the one that sets the appointment. He's not the one that greets you when you walk in the office door and slides the window open and, hey, I'm Dr. Scott here. Come on back. Let's get you seated. And he's not the one that takes you back to the room. He's not the one that takes your blood pressure and whatever. You see him maybe a little bit at the time. So once you build that relationship, and you guys ever heard about, and dude, you hit on something that I think you brushed over, was follow-up. Follow-up is, I'm telling you, is the #1 bottleneck for every business, almost every business owner that I talk to. And when I say that is either you follow up or you lose, because people want to work with who they know, like, and trust. And all of us, I don't know what's their DNA or I don't know what it is, but the thrill of the chase of getting a new deal is so much more fun chasing it. Once we get it, we're like, not as fun. The follow-up sucks. I don't follow up in my past database. I don't do this. I don't do that, right? Yeah. So we're back to chasing another deal, when if we took care of the deal that's on our plate right now, we would literally have more referrals than we could ever imagine. You know what I'm saying? Well, you're absolutely right, and that's the whole point. I mean, real estate is a referral-based. Actually, any business is a referral-based business. I mean, the way that I built my business is referral-based. And you're right. I mean, if at the end of a transaction, the client doesn't say, that was such an awesome experience, chances are you will not get a referral at the end of that deal. Now, an agent can say, like you pointed out, it's funny you mentioned that doctor analogy. That's the exact analogy that I use when I talk to agents. I use the surgeon-nurse analogy. You know, a surgeon doesn't walk into the prep room and start prepping the bed and pulling out the utensils and getting the scale. He doesn't do all that. I mean, you see nurses who take good care of you until you're gaffed, and then you're out. You don't even see the doctor half the time until he goes, hey, everything went good. Here's what we did. Thanks, bye, and here's the bill. I mean, that's what happens. And the whole time you had...
Carl brought up something the other day. We're at the, he brought up something. He goes, I think it was Carl or Kevin, another guy I work with. He goes, I've never been yelled at for communicating too much. Like, hey, Justin, stop calling me and updating me on this process. I'm so tired of you updating me on my new home purchase. I'm just tired of it. Stop calling me. You know what I mean? That's never going to happen. Never.
Nope, no, it won't. You're absolutely right. And that's, the beautiful thing is agents can do that, and they're good at it, but systems and people can also do that. Well, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, and actually the $48 an hour is beans compared to the money you're making with a happy client that gives you referrals and the time that you saved doing that work yourself. Now you're out doing lead generation and working with buyers and sellers. So then, okay, 8 to 10 hours of phone call because you're on the phone with the lender, you're on the phone with title, you're on the phone with the other agent, you're on the phone with the client. We talked about that. The other side of this is paperwork, right? Everyone knows paperwork is just so much fun. You have all of the data entry involved. You have all the amendments that are involved. You have all the emailing that's involved, all the maintaining, and then you have storing that's involved as well. And, it's an interesting thing. So the data entry part, I can see how an agent could say, I can do that myself. It takes, an hour or so. Agreed. But the problem is, once the transaction process begins and the emails start, that's where you start to get bogged down. I mean, we all know you're going to get emails from the lender. Hey, I need this and this and this. Can you please contact your client? Oh, by the way, here's the issue. And you're emailing back and forth. The client's emailing you. Hey, what does it mean now that we're out of this contingency period? And now there's emails going back and forth, and then it turns into phone calls. And you see this repeating pattern of all these types of the 80% that the agents get bogged down with and they're doing the whole time, and what they're not doing is the 20%. So these systems and these people help leverage that out. So my big thing about contract to close, mastering contract to close, is it takes time. I mean, it really does. Contract to close, to do it well, takes time. And, the interesting thing is, I talk to agents every single day who don't understand about HOA documents and why they're important. They don't understand what an option period is. They don't understand about contingencies. And these are agents they have buyers and sellers under contract. Because contract to close and all the minutia, it takes so much time and careful attention. It really does.
Yep.
And so agents get good at it, and a lot of agents are really good at it. They do take the time and they do pay careful attention. But like we've been talking about, if you can leverage that through a system that's automated, or it sends out updates, or it reminds you, that way you're not having to scroll through contracts and doing all these things, now you're saving your time. If you leverage yourself through people, now you've really saved yourself a lot of time. So systems help leverage time through automation and ease. Big thing. Oh, and there's my slide.
All right.
I mean, and really that's it, Scott. I mean, mastering contract to close, it's not that it's super hard.
Yeah.
It just takes so much time. And
time that you
agents can't.
So I guess so here's the thing. A lot of people are saying, I use a transaction coordinator. So you do this for a living, and so like guys, we're not trying to sell you anything. We're just trying to give you some ideas of what takes place. And I actually took a slide off of his website. So can I steal the screen from you and kind of go over this, and maybe you can add to it or subtract to it? I don't know if there's how many things you say that you do. So let me just grab this really quick. Where's my thing at here? 1 second. How do I? Huh? Very strange. 1 second. Attendee. There we go. Okay, this is easier. Let me just do this. Make presenter. There we go. Okay. So, okay, so let me just expand this right here, slideshow from current slide. So this thing right here, is this pretty much, I mean, like, and there's maybe more. So some of the things you do, like, so Dustin does this for a living for, I don't know, how many, you have clients mainly southern United States?
Yeah.
But to be able to do this, as like somebody asked the question, do you can you do this like from outside of the office? Does the person have to be like, what systems do you have in place? Like if somebody wanted to hire you to do all this stuff, fill out the green sheet. I don't even know what the green sheet is. I should probably know that, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a real estate agent, so
yeah. Here's the deal. It's
okay.
What you see on that flyer right there is actually just a snippet of what we do. The checklist that we have in place is 56 points.
Do you have a? Can you show us that? Can you show us that checklist?
Yes, I can.
You pull that up?
Can you give me the screen?
I'll give it back to you. Yep, I'll give it back to you. Yep. I don't know why I go to that one right there. So guys, here's the checklist that he used. This is insane. Make presenter. Okay. There you go, brother. I just threw it back to you. Just click show my screen.
Okay.
And then a couple people are asking if you can share that checklist. Is that cool?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. Right. So you probably got to go to the website, or if you just whatever's on your screen they're gonna see it. So if you need to pause it or whatever, that's cool. Okay.
So this, can y'all see that screen right there?
No, we're seeing. Okay, now we do. Yep. We see your email. There we go. Okay, cool. Now we do. Yep.
Okay, that's the system that I use. This program is called Transaction Point, and it's a contract to close database system. I mean, it's just like any of those other ones that I showed you. So that's what I use. Okay.
Okay.
Let me show you one of the checklists.
So when a new contract comes in, this is kind of the starting of it right here?
Yes. So
okay.
you'll see right here we had the buyer on this one. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So I just highlighted that. So you'll see our checklist right here has buyer made loan app, has seller's agent ordered HOA docs. We have an intro email, a video intro email that we send out to the client and to all the vendors.
So wait a minute, back up. So you have the buyer. So have they made loan app? So who, like, do you call the buyer and say, hey, is it good, or do you call, like, how does, I mean, this
oh no,
we stay in. Wondering how much you actually do.
Yeah, we stay in touch with the lender, the title company, the other agent, the client there that we're working with, and the agent that we're working with. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's beautiful. I mean, to me, it's art. I love it. A lot of people think I'm crazy.
I think you're freaking awesome. So could a lender participate in this as well?
Oh yeah, like, sure.
Okay,
in fact, well, I was going to say, in fact, the vendors love us because we're in such constant communication with them. Hey, the HOA docs are ordered. We'll have them delivered to all parties by this date. Hey, I'm going to have an amendment coming to you. Hey, is the title commitment ready? Hey, is Schedule C ready? Oh, by the way, the appraisal's been ordered. Inspection came in clean. Here's a copy of the. I mean, these are things that we're doing every single day.
Holy crap, dude. So, like, is there, wow. So why would someone not want you to do that? Like why would someone not want this? Like, obviously,
well,
so there's 56 things.
It's a mindset, Scott. I mean, it really is. And I went through it too. I understand the mindset because I went through it too. So here's what the typical agent will say: I don't want to do that because someone's not going to do it as good as me. And that's not a pride thing. It's just a way people think a lot of times because they've invested a lot of time in it, and they are probably really good at it. But the thing is, we're better at it.
so well, obviously, here's the you know, and it's funny. I had that discussion this morning. So we're talking with a couple people, and like, you know, they say we want to do, you know, and I'm not going to say any names or what they wanted, but they say we're really good at this, but we want to do this, and if we do this, then we lose our focus on what we're really good at. So like, and you can only wear one hat. I mean, let's all face it, right? So
that's exactly right.
Can you do this? Like, so Joanne just said, "Oh my God, this is awesome." So how much do you charge for a 56-point touch? Like, what do you charge for this?
It's $350 and it's paid at closing. And if the deal doesn't close, we don't get paid.
Okay, so
but I mean, you've got to understand. If I were to blaze through all the stuff that we do, like we send out letters to the client that look like they come from the agent because we're trying to build the agent's referral business. Because if their business grows, my business grows. We schedule closings. We send out a closing disc to the client at the end of the transaction with all of their documents on it, and it looks like it comes from the agent. It's got this cool little letter, and it asks for referrals.
So it comes from, like, you send it on behalf of the agent, from the agent.
Well, no, it looks like it comes directly from the agent.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, it's pretty incredible. And the thing is, we work with multiple brokerages, so we have letterhead for Keller Williams, Cooper, Coldwell Banker,
you just verify, like if you're working with an agent, you would just verify this is the correct letterhead. Yep. Okay. Good. Boom. Done.
Correct. Yeah, and then the client is now getting letters that look like they come from the agent this entire time. Plus, they've got someone that they can call and email all day, every day about the questions that the agent doesn't need to be bogged down with.
Wow.
You know, and that's
so you're like
what we do.
Transaction coordinator. Like somebody said, I use a transaction coordinator, which is brilliant.
That is what we are. Yeah, that's what we are.
Can you show us? Do you mind showing us a correspondent letter of one of the letters that go? I mean, obviously we know that there's a lot of work that goes into this. Are you cool with showing us maybe one without the names? Or?
Yeah. No, I did. Well, no, I can. I mean, I'll just do this one and I'll put this name on it.
Okay. So is this? Dude, that's an awesome. So yeah. I'm kind of like trying to gather my thoughts here. This is pretty cool. And I got to thank a good friend of mine and partner in crime, Tony Saramatis. He's on the call with us for introducing us. Tony called and said, dude, I got this guy. I just had lunch with him, and it was just insane what he does for agents. And he's had
he's an awesome guy, man. I really like him.
Guy. So if anybody's dealing with Tony Saramatis' group, you guys are in good hands because he's the one that introduced me to Dustin. That's on the call with us. So here's John Burns.
So here's a copy of the letter. Dear John Burns, I'm extremely happy we negotiated a contract on the home you've chosen to purchase. You'll be closing before you know it. By the way, reminder, please log on to our website. You can print out a copy of your contract. You will receive a username and password to that website transaction point that I showed y'all. The file has been set up at my office.
Oh, wait a minute. So let's go back to the first pair, and I'm sorry to keep interrupting. So the transaction, like so you say you will receive a username and password to the transaction point. Is that with you?
Yeah, the program that I showed y'all that I use.
Yep.
That program, the agent gets a username and log into it, and the client gets a username and log into it. So the client and the agent can log in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They can see every single document. They can see exactly where we're at in the transaction. They can see what we've done and what's coming up. So there's a high level of accountability for me and my team.
Okay. So everybody gets that. So the sales agreement's uploaded into your system from, like, obviously the agent has to get it to you, but they take it from there. Like, they give it to you and
once all you have to do is email us the contract, and then we literally take over at that point.
Okay.
But so you'll see here at the end, from this point on, we're working diligently to get your home closed. I look forward to assisting you. If I'm not available when you call, please don't forget my transaction manager, Dustin Curley. Warmest regards, Rhonda Pullman, your for life.
So the way I'm seeing this, is like your team becomes their team.
Well, that is what we do. I mean, we literally become every agent's personal assistant. We get invited to closings all the time.
Okay.
And because no one knows we're virtual unless the agent tells them we're virtual. Right. But I mean, and typically what we'll say is, oh, we can't, there's a lot of closings and we're going to be real busy this week. And they'll say, well, thank you so much. I wish I could have met you. And because what we really try and do is build a rapport with these people so that they felt so well taken care of that by the end of the deal, it's not Dustin that's the rock star, it's the agent that's the rock star.
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone wanted to go do this themselves, they could go buy this, because we're not trying. I mean, like Dustin does this, but if you want to do this yourself, you could go buy a system. Could you buy this system?
Yeah, and they're super inexpensive. I mean, it's like $29 a month. Okay. Yeah, and it's typically around $29 to $49 a month.
For the system.
You have
okay.
Yeah, and you have to go in and build the checklist and kind of learn how all that stuff works. And some of them are easy and some of them aren't.
Sure.
But I mean, once you've got a really good system in place, I mean, at that point you can you can start doing the contract to close because it has everything to do with the system and the process that's in place. I mean, that's it.
Okay. Somebody's asking, does he work with agents or only brokers?
No, all I work with is agents. Yeah.
Agents, so agents, it doesn't matter who. What type of insurance do you carry as a coordinator? Like, do you have to carry a certain kind of insurance?
No, I don't. There's no law, there's no state or national law where a transaction coordinator has to have any kind of E&O insurance. At first, I thought they did, and so I was going to try and become a broker and carry my own E&O, but you don't have to.
Don't have to. Okay. Do you work in Florida?
I work anywhere.
Where are you physically located? Sandra wants to know.
Georgetown, Texas, just north of Austin. I have an office there with a staff.
Do you have any, okay, here's a good one. Do you have any issues doing deals in Florida with the time change?
No. My whole staff and I both understand real estate. It's funny, people will ask me, well, what hours do your people work? And I go, they work real estate hours.
Right, I'm working half a day today, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Right.
I mean, they're definitely going to be in the office around 7:30 or 8. But the way that I work is my agents that I work with are super important to me. I care very deeply about their business because it impacts my business. So, if an agent sends me a text message at 9 o'clock at night and says, hey, I didn't see the amendment come through. Did it ever go out? I'm going to jump up and go take a look and go, oh, yeah, here's when it went out. You were copied on it. Let me know if you need anything else.
Nice. Okay. Your service is a flat fee. It doesn't, regardless of the contract amount, it doesn't matter, right?
Correct. Yeah, and I don't require agents to sign a contract with me so that they're bound to use me for every deal, and most transaction coordinators do. And the reason I don't is because having been in real estate for so long, I don't want an agent if they get an investor deal and it's cash and it's closing in a week or two. I don't want an agent to have to be bound to use me for every single deal.
Cool.
I mean,
I don't believe in contracts either. If you're not happy,
I don't either.
I
don't either.
Here's a good one by Dawn. I appreciate you being here, Dawn. So I have a team. Would we be able to work with just one or two transaction managers, or do you rotate?
No, you would have one person. One person,
okay. Dawn, there you go. Do you work with many Canadian agents? There's a Canadian. David, welcome all the way from Canada.
I have never worked with a Canadian agent, don't you know, but I would.
All right, cool, man. Yeah, why not? I mean, I just figured out what the rules are, the laws are, and go with it, huh? And it really what that boils down to is setting up the right systems for Canada, and then you have Canada-specific systems in place. So, yeah.
Correct.
Is it one specific is it one specific coordinator or a transaction, or do the clients talk to multiple staff people?
No, the clients are only ever going to talk to one person. Now, I do have a staff behind the scenes because, like right now, we have 133 contracts closing in July. There's no way, and there's no way that one person could make all those phone calls and do the checklist. So what I did was, just like I told you guys, you have to leverage yourself through systems and people. I hired 2 more people, and all they do is answer emails all day long and go through the checklist all day long. So I've got a transaction coordinator, and so everything is leveraged out, but there's one voice that these people are going to be talking to.
Good deal, man. So Sue, I really appreciate you guys asking the question. So Sue says, do you work with investors who have properties to sell? Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, investors are so much fun.
Yeah. In a good way, right?
Yeah,
in a good way, yeah. Like, that's a continuous business. So is your
staff
Monday
it
through
is
Friday?
Continuous, yeah, for sure.
That's a good question, Dawn, again. Great question, Dawn. Is your staff Monday through Friday?
Again, theoretically, yes. Theoretically, they're Monday through Friday. However, every single agent that I work with, and I can give you guys a jillion references, and every single agent will tell you, if I need something, it gets done. I mean, if there's something that has to be done on a Saturday and the agent's doing whatever, or they're busy showing homes, we're going to get that done.
Okay. What is the name of this program again? It's called transactionpoint.com, right?
Transaction Point, yes.
Transaction Point is the one you're using. Okay, cool. At Keller Williams, we use .loop. Is there anything in .loop to set up something like this, or would you need to purchase more software? Great question, Teresa. Appreciate the question.
Unfortunately, Keller Williams, and Keller Williams is actually where I started. I actually used to teach at MAPS at Keller Williams International. I used to teach their Bold and Ignite courses for a long time. And I was back in the days when they had Blue Sheets, and then they went to paperless, and now they have .loop. And unfortunately, .loop doesn't have that yet. The My Transactions part of it, the guy who is behind the scenes, oddly enough, his name is Dustin, real nice guy. They're trying to put something in place in .loop to where there's going to be a checklist, but they don't have that right now. And the other thing is, .loop has no way to merge with any sort of Word or Excel or anything like that. And that starts to get problematic when you're trying to print out letters and do things like that for your client.
Oh, and this one does. This one merges with Word and all that.
Yes, yeah. The way I just showed y'all that letter was I went write letter and then merged to Word, and it popped it up.
Perfect, perfect. Is there an agreement involved, or is it just it's per contract? There's no agreements. Yeah, we already covered that.
Yeah, no agreement. I don't want
Mark,
agents
thank you
bound.
so much. Appreciate you being here. Do you say you charge $350 per transaction at closing, correct?
Correct.
Yep. So it's at closing, nothing up front. So if you give them a deal today and it closes like August 1st,
so, yeah,
August
30 days
9th,
from
whatever
now.
it is, that's when it would be on the HUD, correct?
Yep.
All right. So it's right on the HUD, so you could actually charge it as part of the closing fee, I guess. I mean, I don't know how that all works.
Yeah, you can. I mean, if you use, oh yeah, it's absolutely legal. It's just called a transaction fee, and you can put it on the listing agreement or the buyer rep, and then charge it to the client, and then you don't actually pay anything at all.
Excellent. Linda is asking a great question. I appreciate you joining us, Linda. Do you upload all your contacts into the website that are required by my broker?
Yep.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, any sort of compliance that you have, like Keller Williams has .loop for their compliance, Remax has SkySlope. Any compliance that you have, we take care of all of that. So let's say we turn in a contract and all the paperwork, and the compliance person comes back and says, hey, we still need this and this. We're going to chase that stuff down for you and get stuff signed and upload it so that you can get what's called a disbursement authorization sent to title before closing. So we chase all of that down for you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Here's a good one. Anthony, I appreciate the question. Appreciate you being here. Do you find it difficult dealing with language from so many different states with a different contract language?
At first, I did, yes. About 3 years ago is when I did my first out-of-Texas contract, and that's where I learned that option periods don't really make sense to people outside of Texas. It's a contingency.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, that's a crazy one.
And so I did have to learn that lingo. But I mean, once you understand it, it's very easy to get past it.
So the first one is just learn, if it maybe not, but find out what once you got it, right?
Yes.
When a buyer calls, contacts sold to close, does a live person always answer the call?
9 times out of 10, yeah. And I mean, if we're on the phone and they leave a voicemail, we're going to call them right back.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they get our personal cell number.
Okay. Hey, somebody wants your contact info. Can you go to the PowerPoint and look at the contact slide there?
Yeah.
I should have had that up there. Sorry, guys. Thank you, Dawn, for that. Thank you for a great presentation. Got to go. Thanks, Alan. Appreciate you. Have a good day. Holidays. How about Danny's? Danny's pushing it, man. He's like, holidays, man. Dust, now you're working on holidays.
Much to my wife's chagrin.
Right? Amen.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Scott, I own a business, and my business takes care of my family, and if my business takes care of my family, then I'm going to do what I have to do.
Absolutely. This is a great question. Is this mobile accessible?
Yes.
Transaction
point is mobile accessible. You can save it.
Get everything on there.
Yeah, you can save it. Yeah, you can save it to your browser. You can log right in.
Beautiful.
You can see the documents. I mean, yeah.
Transaction mobile. No, transaction. What was it again? One more time.
Transaction point.
Transaction point. Thank you. some deals are very small. Do you reduce fees for that?
I don't, and here's why. Agents don't want to reduce their commission for small deals because they're still doing the same amount of work, and it's the same thing for us. I mean, we're going to take as good a care of a $100,000 home as we are a $1 million home.
Yeah. What was the website? So it's Transaction Point is what he uses. What is the name of the product being discussed? We were, you know, Kathy, we've been talking about contract to close and all this stuff, and Dustin's got a 56-point. Do you want to show all the checklists that you do for the people? I think. Sorry, my question was so butchered. No worries.
Yeah, I mean, what I was showing y'all right here
was the actual checklist that you go through, which is awesome.
Yeah,
and that's probably different between clients a little bit here and there. You might add a step or subtract a step, right? But this is probably the main one you go with, and then some might apply, some might not.
Yeah, and if there's a variance, then certainly we can add stuff. But, I mean, you'll see all of this stuff that we're doing the entire time. I mean, it's a ton of stuff. And then right here, these are all the transaction documents. And then you'll see these these little discs next to some of these. Those are the ones that go on the closing disc that we send to the client after closing that looks like it comes from the agent.
See, you didn't even cover that, dude. So you send out a closing disc. Now, what about like a hard drive, or what about stored online, or like do they have anything like that? That'd be
cool. The agent and the client can log into Transaction Point 10 years down the road from now.
Oh, so and pull up anything that happened.
Yep, it never goes away. I mean,
beautiful.
I still get emails today from clients that we worked with like 5 years ago, and they say, "Hey, Dustin, I lost that transaction disc you sent me. Can you send me a copy of my HUD?" We'll email it to them, copy the agent, and say, "If you need anything else, just let us know." And the agents are like, "Whoa."
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Here's a good one by George. How about Spanish-speaking agents?
So we use Google Translate, and it's very easy. It actually, the Spanish-speaking clients will actually crack up and tell us that our Spanish is better than theirs, and then we have to tell them that we're using Google Translate. But yeah, I mean, all of the emails, we type them out, we put them in Google Translate, we translate them, and then we put them in the email and send it off.
Yep. And Tony Ceramanis has brought up a good question. He goes, if someone wanted to do, and it makes me sick thinking about doing this, but if someone wanted to do this themselves, one is I wouldn't do it yourself because it's not what we do. I would hire someone and just set it up for you. Like maybe go to, I don't know, there's a bunch of different sites where you can hire stuff done, but like this, guys, this isn't what you should be doing. This is not 48. If you pick up the phone and called your past database to get one more deal and call and just go deep and remind your clients who they are. That's what you should be doing. But yes, Tony, if you wanted to do this, you would, one, buy the system, and two, start putting a checklist together of everything that happens throughout the transaction. You might already have a list, but put that in there and make sure that the emails go out, the communication goes out, the follow. I'm telling you guys, the follow-up, even if there's nothing except for phone calls, you will increase your business just by the phone calls.
Well, yeah. Okay. So think about this. I've been on the phone with you guys for 50 minutes.
Yep.
Let's say I pick up 3 clients.
Yep.
My staff is doing the work right now while I'm on this phone call with y'all because I've leveraged myself through systems and people.
That's what it's all about. Yep. Here you go. Here's Eric. Is a great question. Thanks for being here. I only work with commercial transactions. Do you work on those?
We do work commercial transactions. They are kind of their own beast.
Right.
I would not, I mean, I'll be humble enough to say that I don't think I'm mastery level at commercial transactions just because, really in Texas, commercial real estate is the small percentage of real estate deals. And most commercial brokers or commercial agents, they will immediately hire someone in-house because of the nature of a commercial transaction.
Yeah. Great question coming in. Is this for buyer side, selling side, both sides? Doesn't matter?
It's both. I mean, the 56-point checklist is on buyer or a seller contract because it's the same thing with just a variation. So, like, let's say we have a listing that goes under contract. Yep. I'm going to have to order the HOA docs and have them delivered. If we have the buyer, I have to make sure that they've been ordered and that our buyer gets them. So it's the same checklist. It's just kind of flip-flopped depending on who we represent.
Cool. The number 1 and number 2, I'm guessing here on the where it says pages, that's the number of pages. Like this one says buyer docs 22. There'd be 22 pages in the buyer doc.
Correct.
Right on. Cool. 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 All right. Is this just for a short sale? Do you do short sales? Extra cost for short sales?
Yeah. No, there's not an extra cost. We do short sales. We typically like to do them once they've been approved, because if we get sent a short sale before it's approved, there's really nothing to do on those until they get approved, and then at that point, that's when the clock starts. Now, we don't mind helping, like if you have to upload stuff into Equator or there's different sites that short sale people use, we don't mind helping with that at all. So, yes, we do short sales, but we typically like to get them once the bank has approved them because that's when the real work starts.
Got it. Here's a good one. Does Transaction Point have a drip campaign feature or a monthly e-newsletter? I don't know if you're...
It does not. Well, if I built one, it would.
You could.
Yeah,
you could.
If I built one, it would, but I haven't built one because that's not what I do.
Okay. If I want to do same services he does in Canada and use the system, would he teach the system?
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, man. It's because to me, this is not about, I'm not trying to be a millionaire being on this phone call with you guys. I want you to achieve a higher level of success, whether you use me or someone else or you do it yourself.
Brother. Amen.
So to me, it's not about the greed. So if someone said, hey, could I use Transaction Point and would he teach me how to use it? Yeah, I'll even share some of the checklist with you and teach you how to put it in there. It's
cool.
There's enough business to go around.
Yeah, there's so much. Yeah. So hey, here's a great question, Ralph. I appreciate the question, and I appreciate you being here. When your staff sends an email to the buyer or seller, how do you make it look like they work with for the agent? Like how does that?
So you will see.
Great question, Ralph.
Can y'all see my email right here?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So here is the agent that we're working with saying, can you find out about this fee and will you please correct the CDA reflecting the 93,650? So this is a strand of emails that we've been doing, and somewhere in here will be one of ours, I'm thinking. That's Ashley, that picture you see. She's super sweet. Oh, no, I'm not on that one. Anyway, yes. So what we do.
Just everybody copied or?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, we copy everyone on every single email. So the agents are always, always, always in the know because we want the agent to see every email that goes back and forth.
Sure, sure.
And then what would happen is, it would say Dustin Curley, Transaction Manager 4, and then it has my number.
Okay.
So every single email, everyone knows that I am the transaction coordinator for the agent on file.
Got it. Cool. And can you go back to your contact info again?
Yeah.
Would you work with Homebase as a transaction management platform or Coldwell Banker for Coldwell Banker agents? Homebase. You know anything about that one?
Is Homebase the backside of the compliance?
Would you work with Homebase as a transaction management platform for Coldwell Banker agents? I don't. She must work with.
Okay, I think what they're asking is, rather than using Transaction Point for that particular agent, would I use Homebase? And if I'm interpreting that question right, I'd rather not. And the reason is the system that I have in place is I've never seen anyone come close to it. And I've done a ton of research on the transaction coordinators that pop up here and there in Texas, and no one comes close to what we do. And it's so built into Transaction Point and automated in the letters that print out and all these kinds of things. For me to try and use a completely different system would probably be taking steps backwards.
Backwards, yeah. I mean, you already got the system in place unless something comes along better and it's set up already. Here's a great one. Joanne's like, why would anyone do this themselves for $350 a transaction? That's a great question.
I agree, Joanne.
Yeah. What do you do when you go on vacation? There you go. Terry says, what do you do when you go on vacation, man?
I've got staff in place. Like right now, I left and came to San Antonio yesterday, and I'm going to be here until tomorrow. And this entire time, I've got like 30 to 40 closings that are happening over these next 2 days, and they're just happening like clockwork.
Awesome, dude. Okay, here's a great one. If, for example, if an appraisal comes in, these are probably the questions you always get. If an appraisal comes in low, does Dustin, staff, have the conversation with what to do with the client in Florida? Typically, this is only a licensed agent conversation, as non-licensed coordinators cannot do this type of work.
Correct. I'm licensed. So
Okay.
if we have to have that conversation, I can definitely have it and explain some of the, like, in fact, we do get this question a lot. The seller will call and they're nervous and they'll say, hey, did we get the appraisal back? And I'm like, no, not yet. It typically takes about 10 days, or, and I'll explain this. And they'll say, well, what happens if it comes in low? And I'll tell them, well, there are a few things that we can do. You can either lower the price. You can send comps back into the appraiser to try and justify the contract price. In some cases, the agents might give up like a 0.5% of commission in order to make up the.
Make the word. Yeah, for sure.
And so we can explain to them the various options. Yeah,
because everybody usually has to give a little all the way around. Yeah, I mean it's
correct.
If we hire Dustin, do we just send you the contract and you take it from there?
Yes.
Yes. Have you worked with attorneys in short sales in California?
I have not. That would be fun.
Okay. Same thing, though. It's a transaction.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's other stuff that has to be put in place and different things, but
yeah.
If you purchase transaction point, is there a base checklist to start with? Probably nothing in bit. Probably not. Transaction point.
No, there's not. There's nothing in there except the flat template, and then you have to go in and start working on the checklist and the dates and so forth.
You guys are smart. There's some smart people on this call. So if you have both sides of the sales, is it 350 times 2? Great question.
No. It's what I do is I charge $450. I reduce the price since we have both sides. I mean, it's the same amount of work, but I mean, if an agent's going to send me both sides, I don't want them to have to pay $700 for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
$450.
So typically, what we do is we'll do $450.
Got it. Bank-owned properties, no big deal. Same thing. Just
no, it's REOs, HUD foreclosures. I mean, they're all. We've done them, especially in Texas. I mean, you guys know that in Texas we had that massive investor boom in like 2004, where all the people from California were coming over and buying houses, and the next thing you know, it crashed, and now we've got a jillion REO properties out here.
Here's a great question, Janetta. Janetta, thanks for being here. So if my client calls me, what do I tell them?
Normally what an agent will do is on their voicemail, they'll say, if I'm not available or for transactions in progress, please call my transaction manager and they'll do it that way. Or if you're out in the field and a client calls, what nearly all of my agents do is they'll say, I tell you what, hey, I'm out in the field right now. Can you go ahead and call Dustin, because he's sitting in front of the computer right now and has access to all of that. And they'll go, oh, yeah. And they just go around and call me.
It's just getting it off your plate. I think it comes down to setting the proper expectations instead of, hey, and what I always say is, hey, if you call me, I'm going to disappoint you every single time once the loan is in process. It's the truth. Because I don't know, because Dustin's got the ball, man. It's like I call it potato. Like Dustin's got the potato, man. It's hot, and he's doing everything. So I'm going to disappoint you every time. So instead of waste your time with me, because I'm just going to call Dustin and find out, just call Dustin.
Yeah.
Make him part of your team.
Yeah.
Let's see. Cool, man. So, hey, guys, top of the hour. I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate all the questions. Dustin is, like this link right here, facebook.com/groups/agent mastermind. If you're joining us for the first time, we're 8,300 people and growing. If you have any further questions for Dustin, he is part of the group, and he's more than happy to answer any questions you might have. Give us help to our group in any way, shape, or form that we can. Guys, if you're not using Dustin, find somebody that does work for you or with you, and guys, put that thing on your wall that says however much you make per hour, and ask yourself, what could I be doing that's actually $48 an hour work? Or some of you guys on the call, I know you're making double that, triple that. So you got to ask yourself, $100 an hour, what could I be doing to get one more deal or two more deals a month? Guys, that'll change your life. So find somebody that you can work with, like-minded, that actually cares about you and your business, that's part of your team, that you can call your team, and amazing things happen. So, Dustin, I appreciate you being here, showing us your system, giving us
thanks so much. I appreciate y'all being here.
So we'll see you same time, same place next Tuesday, 12 Eastern. Everybody have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you on Agent Mastermind. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.